to call to order the public hearing for the zoning amendment application 1018-4 by Summers Real Estate Group, LLC, requesting a zoning map amendment to 8.636 acres of land on Concord Hamden Road, currently known as permanent parcel 08-A-013-0-00-002-0 and 08-A-013-0-00-003-0 from the current zoning district of Town Hall Neighborhood to the R1 residential district. I think what I'll do is at this time, Heather, if you'd like to say anything about this, about where it's been, how it got here, give maybe just a brief synopsis of all that, and then I'll turn it over to Mr. Summers if he'd like to say anything.
Okay. Thank you. So this amendment was initiated by an application, as you stated, by the Summers Real Estate Group, LLC. We forwarded it to the Lake County Planning Commission for the Ohio Revised Code, which they did come back with a positive recommendation for this board to approve it with no stipulations. Subsequently, the Zoning Commission held their own public hearing last month, and they again also confirmed that they would recommend approval to this body as well by a unanimous vote. So that brings us to this evening, where they are looking for the approval to go to the R1 district. That's it, unless you want something else further.
No, I'll probably just thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Summers, you're the applicant. I would give you an opportunity to speak to this.
Richard Summers, Summers Real Estate Group. As Heather said, this is a proposed zoning from Town Hall neighborhood, which currently does not allow any residential zoning, to an R1 residential district. We feel, after working with the neighbors and being before this board before, we feel that this is the most compatible zoning category to go along with the houses to the south on Hunting Lake Drive. Another item that's come up in the past is the headstone in the rear southeast corner of the property. We will do a deed restriction and protect an area with about 20 feet around that headstone we have located now, and we're not going to disturb it at all or try and move it or see if it's really a grave. We're just going to protect it. As Heather said, the proposed zoning has been recommended by Lake County Planning Commission and the Concord Township Zoning Board. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
No, do we have the ability to zoom? Can you zoom up on this? You tell me where you, or can I come to you?
Be in the middle.
That's as close as I get.
Oh dear.
That's not very good then. That's why we need a split screen. Okay. I got nothing further. Maybe just a question for Heather when she gets a chance.
Okay. I don't have any questions. Do you have any questions,
no.
Mr. Summers?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, I would, you want to ask your question of Heather now?
Yeah, Heather, if you could just kind of remind us how we got to the Town Hall neighborhood and Town Hall Commons. I mean, that was, we rezoned that when, if you know. I was here, you weren't.
I know, yeah. I believe it was
She's been around
2009.
you. Yeah.
I believe it was 2009,
Okay.
when either the text or the map was amended to include that district in that area.
Sounds about right. Just for folks at home to know, the surrounding zoning to the south is R2 PUD, that's Quail Hollow. To the west is R3. Directly to the north is Town Hall Neighborhood, as well as R1. There's a 2-acre parcel that's zoned R1, and then just to the northeast is R1, and to the east is Town Hall Commons, and then to the sort of to the catty corner to the northwest is manufacturing. So there is a blend and transition of residential uses and light uses in the area. If folks at home can imagine the entrance to Quail on Concord Hamden Road, as well as Ravenna, the intersection of Ravenna and 608 Concord Hamden Road. Paul is showing you now, or is about to show you, the map. I don't know that you have it on the right camera, Rick.
He's gonna bring it out, he's gonna put it on.
You gotta switch it over.
He's gonna be doing a lot of that work.
We're okay.
Making him do work.
All right, there we go. Everyone at home can see it.
Oh, that's good.
That's the property being inquired, that's being applied within the yellow, that is being asked to go from Town Hall neighborhood to R1. So allow everybody at home to get a good visual of that lay of the land.
Basically, it's the property between the entrance and the nursery.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Can we ask questions now with regard
Yep,
to
but
that?
I'm gonna have you come up. I'm not gonna make Paul stand there all night. Okay, now that Paul has come back to his proper location, I'm going to ask if there's any members of the public that would like to address the board regarding this application, either for or against. Come on up, state your name, address for the record.
Okay, I'd like to come up. I do have a question. With regard to the thing. Jeanette Delbane, 11411 Labrador Lane in Concord Township. I have a question with regard to what Paul showed. There is that one line, it looks like there are two parcels, or is that considered one parcel?
There are actually two parcels as part of this application. Mrs.
Okay.
Spear, actually, those are actually two separate parcels.
And they are both the Spear property?
They were owned by Mrs. Spear, yes.
Okay, so this zoning here that we're looking at right now is for both of them or just one of them?
No, both of them.
Okay, so this includes both of them?
That's correct.
Both properties total 8.636 acres.
Okay, so that's the two.
That's
There
the
was
two
that
par-
line when you showed it, and it was a little confusing there.
Yep,
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
you're welcome. Come on up.
Go ahead.
Good evening, Ron Glebe, 7223 Hunting Lake Drive. If this zoning is passed tonight, what happens next? What is the events that happens if this is passed and moves forward?
From the township's standpoint, nothing formally unless a plan is submitted under the new zoning, in terms of a development plan. That would be on Mr. Summers' timeline. So there is no other, action.
He does
by the
not have to
township.
submit a plan,
Sure he does.
Yeah.
Any development will require a development plan that would go through site plan
and he
review.
has to do that when?
Before he's moving dirt, and he has to submit a plan under site plan review.
And then someone who reviews that plan?
That'll be reviewed by the county planning commission, our zoning commission, and, or actually, doesn't go to the zoning commission, does it? No.
Correct. It does not go to the zoning commission.
That's right,
It
'cause
would go to the Lake County Planning Commission.
Planning commission, yes.
During that time frame, will there be a printed proposal available to review, submitted by Mr. Summers to someone that, and that we could view?
All those are public documents, yes.
I think it's important that all that's here before us today is moving it from one zoning classification to the second zoning classification. So town hall neighborhood to R1. What happens when it's R1? There may be nothing that happens, or there may be a development plan that comes up with, which would have to go through all the processes that you would have to do in, development. Whether it's the planning commission, the zoning commission, variances, but they would have to comply with the R1 regulations. Whereas right now, if someone would do something, they would have to comply with the town hall neighborhood classifications.
So that would all have to fit into the ruling of what R1 allows, and that would require Mr. Summers to have a proposal laid on the table for someone to review,
Yes. Yeah, you don't get to just build whatever you want.
okay? Would that proposal include setbacks and buffer zones and all those things? That would have to be all part of it?
All of that, and you can
Okay.
find all of that on our website.
Yeah.
The zoning code is on our website that lays all that out.
Okay,
It gives you
I'll
all the
review that.
setbacks, buffers, all that.
and what about stormwater? The
That would
flooding
be
issue
reviewed
that
by
I-
the county stormwater department. Any plan is reviewed by them. I believe the county engineer, the planning commission, soil and water, they all review those plans.
I had some pictures of some flooding. There's flooding there again today now with the heavy rain, so that's a major concern of us, the residents behind that property, obviously. And I guess finally, my last question is, is there any schedule to have Mrs. Spears' property, a building, house, torn down? Is there anything scheduled?
We would have to ask Mr. Summers,
Yeah.
or whoever would end up owning.
That's,
That's not our decision.
okay. We feel it's a concern. We addressed that with Andy.
Yes, sir.
You had told us some things were pending. Is that correct, Andy?
That is correct. And Mr. Summers is here in the audience, but we've spoken about the property based upon some resident concerns. Once he has control of the property, he has expressed that he will demolish that property shortly after obtaining control of the property. But that control, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Summers, but that control is predicated upon successful rezoning in order to take control. So, am I correct?
That is correct. And we, assuming that this were to pass tonight, we've already contacted the building department, and that house will be torn down by the end of the year.
Okay, thank you.
That's your
That's
answer.
good.
And
Okay,
I
that's
have
what we,
another comment, if I may.
Yeah.
The planning commission, when we submit any subdivision plan, is submitted approximately 1 month before the meeting date. So that is available for review, and you have the same rights to go to the Lake County Planning Commission and speak for or against any subdivision plan or your concerns.
and we can get a copy of that plan at that time.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, those are all, just, let me add something
Yeah,
here.
go ahead.
As you take a look at our zoning code, you're gonna notice there's a town hall neighborhood and there's gonna be all the regulations and setbacks that are necessary. You're gonna see the same thing for town hall commons. But as you look in this document, this picture we have here, R2, the PUD, they'll have their setback regulations. The R3, which is the condominiums to the left on the other side of this area, they'll have their setback regulations. I think you'll find that in the R1, those are gonna be the greatest, okay? And that's where we're gonna allow, hopefully
Residential.
allow, the greatest amount of space for that stormwater issue that you're talking about.
Okay. And that's all available online?
All available online.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Hello, I'm Mark Falcone, live at 10185 Page Drive. I oppose this conversion to residential district R1 on the grounds that it's reducing our capacity, our tax basis in the future for future development for commercial. I think it should stay as a town hall district. I think last trustee meeting I was at, topic of Concord petitioning for a specific zip code, which I think is a good idea, and no intentions of building a post office. I think this parcel here, or this area, Town Hall neighborhood, would really be great for a post office. My question to the trustees is this Town Hall zoning that we have, would that could you incorporate the building of a post office? And I think that would be a viable option for this property. I'm against this rezoning to residential, basically on that premise of reducing our commercial property. And if you could answer if this post office would fit Town Hall neighborhood, it'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I don't have it in front of me. I believe Town Hall neighborhood would probably allow for a building of a post office, but I would tell you that the Postal Service is not looking to build any new post offices. We have inquired on that point repeatedly, and that's, with their massive budget, 2 point some odd billion for this year, budget shortfall, they are not building post offices.
They also don't pay any taxes.
And they don't pay any taxes.
Correct.
So you would defeat your desire of, expanding the tax base, if you will. I understand your sentiment about conversion of something that is commercial in nature, as is Town Hall neighborhood, to something that is not, as it relates to taxes. I would say in this case, the amount of land and the development that'll take place, I'm not, and all of it depends on what Mr. Summers builds versus what somebody else might have built under some sort of commercial development sometime indefinitely in the future. But, that all comes down to valuation in terms of what the township gets. So, there's no real way to know exactly what the value of something would have been versus, what Mr. Summers would do. There obviously would be a gap long-term, because generally commercial is more than residential, but the gap may not be as much as you and I think. So, and I did, I opposed the rezoning of the 2 acres to R1 on the other side, on the north side of Concord Hampton, for that reason. To leave that northern side Town Hall neighborhood. But in our last, during that public hearing, you may recall that I did at least yield to the idea that the Town Hall neighborhood, being that it butts up against this other denser residential, may not, R1 may be an acceptable fit on that parcels that we're discussing this evening, based on the residential around it, to the south and to the west. So, that's where I have stood historically. Paul?
Yeah, with respect to R1 and Town Hall neighborhood and Town Hall Commons, those were all transition points that I think we wrestled with, I guess now in 2009, that how are we going to deal with those pieces of property as we enter into either the Quail Hollow subdivision, or you head towards Town Hall. You had residential property across the street, even though that was not originally zoned, or somehow was unzoned from R1. It was being occupied as an R1 piece, talking about that little R1 red that's sitting in that that area. And that's always been a residential home for, I don't know, 40, 50 years that's been there, right next to the church. So this area has always, we've always struggled with, I guess, what we thought would be the proper zoning for there. It's bounced around. I think it was manufacturing and commercial, a little bit of R1. Certainly you had a government building there, so it's an unusual piece.
Thoughts, comments?
No, you two have said it very well.
We usually talk too much. And I would also point out that even though Town Hall neighborhood is classified as a commercial zone, when it was crafted back in '09, there is language in there. It's called Town Hall neighborhood. There was language in there referencing residential, but it was never defined. I think the intention was at the time, if I remember, was to probably address the concept of residential within Town Hall neighborhood at some point in the future. But that never occurred, because we never, no plans ever came forward in terms of somebody looking to develop it. Obviously now, with Mrs. Spears passing, that is something that is, now we have something before us.
Well, you had two. You had Mrs. Spears' property, and you had the property across the street that were both residential. So when we were making a Town Hall neighborhood, we included residential in it as
we moved it
And it
from
didn't reference.
residential to commercial, because it had been residential prior to that.
Right,
Um,
so actually, we're just backing up.
Well, yeah, and that was why Town Hall Neighborhood referenced residential
Right.
uses, even though it didn't define them or lay out a game plan, if you will, because it was residential at one time.
True.
So, okay, anybody else want to speak to this?
Chairman Galvin, I do have a question, and I'm going to digress.
Come on up.
Okay.
I have some questions.
You have to digress at
I'm
the,
going to
at
digress.
the,
Okay, Jeanette Delbane, 11411 Labrador Lane. We're talking about the township area and all of the zoning there. I really think it would be nice to have some very nice homes in the section that Mr. Summers is considering putting there. I do have a question. Nobody seems to ask about it or consider about it. The homes that are directly north across the street from the township hall, where are we here? This way.
okay.
Those homes there, those are private residents, that is zoned residential. Is there any future consideration for having those homes removed and having part of that as the township commons or campus? Nobody seems to know, and those homes are there, and I know they've been there forever. But you're talking about a nice making a nice area.
I will tell you that, that is private property, and it would be inappropriate for anybody on this board to reference that property in any fashion. It's currently zoned R1.
It
Or I'm
is
sorry,
R-
no, it's in the town hall, it's in Town Hall Commons. That area was rezoned. There is privately owned, families live there, and we won't make comment as to anything beyond that.
Okay,
It would
well,
be
that,
inappropriate for us to discuss that in terms of what you're referencing.
all right, because most of the people in the community, they see it, it's been there and whatever, and nobody really knows, and you talk about the township commons and whatever, and my question would be if there is any, would be any future plans to remove those homes and put in, say, another ball field or something of that nature. So that would not be in contemplation whatsoever.
Yeah, we don't just remove homes.
Well, I did not know, okay, that is zone, township hall, township commons area, but it is actually in R1.
No,
No,
I'm sorry,
it's-
I misspoke. It's Town Hall Common.
It's
Yeah,
town.
it had previously, I believe, been R1, but or whatever it was prior, it was,
Now, I know
it had
those
a
homes have been
commercial
there
zoning,
forever
but
and
we
ever and
switched
ever.
it, yeah.
Yeah,
No, we can't speak to that property.
Okay.
We can't.
It'd be like saying to Mr. Galloway, you know, hey, we're thinking about rezoning your house. and
I
we're
know,
gonna-
but
we're
there
gonna
is
knock-
eminent
We're
domain,
gonna knock
Paul.
it down and make it a park.
Well, no, it would be like me actually saying to, you weren't here, and in a public meeting I said, well, we're taking her house.
well, but there
You'd be
is,
like,
but
wow,
there
oh,
is
really?
the legal thing, eminent domain, and I'm not getting to that
Which-
point. I wouldn't take somebody's
Which-
house away, but there's always been that curiosity, if there are any future plans to develop that area more in keeping with a town hall concept. So there is not.
I think the only thing I would say is if the property owner approached us and said, hey, we're looking to sell, would you be interested in buying? We would listen.
Okay,
I mean, that is something that we have done. We did recently,
Zone two.
right here to our east,
Yeah.
where the property owner approached us about purchasing those two homes that were there on that property. And we did, and the chief just recently did fire training.
fire truck, yeah, right,
Yep,
they
so,
burned it.
so that, I think that's to the extent that we can talk about that, is that
Okay,
somebody came to us and said, hey, we have property, we want to sell it, would you be interested? We would certainly entertain that.
because I've always had the question whether or not that was in long-range plans, but right now it's not.
And I'm sure that we would discourage the use of eminent domain.
Actually, so would I.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How about clarification? for
Sure.
myself? The parcels in question, is that the one that contains that oil well that's there?
No.
No.
No, that's on the north side.
North side.
That
Okay.
is remaining town hall neighborhood.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody else wish to speak? Clarifications or otherwise? Okay, Mr. Summers, anything you'd like to add before I close this public hearing? No? Okay. Paul, Connie?
No.
Mr. Lucas?
None.
Okay. I am going to go ahead and close this public hearing. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, a couple minutes.
We have 2 minutes until our regularly scheduled meeting, so everybody has a moment for a breather.